Hello and welcome back. Now that you know a bit about the Second Persian War, let's talk about another subject that's near and dear to my heart: movies. As a classics teacher, I get asked all the time how close this or that movie is to the source material. And with the 300, I'm happy to say that it's pretty darn close to what we know from the plot points given to us by Herodotus. Some of the finer details are a bit off, but I hope you enjoy my lecture on this called Second Persian War and 300. How accurate is the movie? One question you might ask is, how do we know anything we know about the story of the Battle of Thermopylae during the Second Persian War? And this is easy to answer. A lot of it comes to us from Herodotus' histories. In 1962, someone who had read Herodotus' histories decided to make a movie called The 300 Spartans about the Battle of Thermopylae. In 1998, an artist named Frank Miller wrote a novel called 300. And in 2007, Gerard Butler starred in a movie by the same name. It seems that any story about Thermopylae needs to include certain plot points in order to capture the reader's attention. So I've rounded up a list of several that we're going to go over as we watch some clips from the movie. One thing that needs to happen is the Spartans need to kill the Persian envoy. There will be some ephors that Leonidas will encounter who will tell him not to go to war. In fact, they'll forbid him. His wife will tell him to come back with his shield or on it, encouraging him to bravery. Others will join Leonidas in his struggle. He'll make some choice comments, usually one-liners, and only the Spartans will stay to the end. Let's see how true these are. In our first clip, Leonidas is talking to this Persian envoy about the Persian king Xerxes' requests that Leonidas submit earth and water to him as a token of submission. Let's see how that goes.
Walk to cool our tongues.
If you value your lives over your complete annihilation, listen carefully, Leonidas. Xerxes conquers and controls everything he rests his eyes upon. He leads an army so massive it shakes the ground with its march, so vast it drinks the rivers dry. All the god King Xerxes requires is this: a simple offering of earth and water, a token of Sparta's submission to the will of Xerxes.
Submission. Now that's a bit of a problem. See, rumor has it the Athenians have already turned you down. And if those philosophers and boy lovers have found that kind of nerve, then...
We must be diplomatic.
And of course, Spartans have their reputation to consider.
Choose your next words carefully, Leonidas. They may be your last as king. Madman. You're a madman.
Air and water. Well, you'll find plenty of both down there.
No man, Persian or Greek, no man threatens a messenger.
You bring the crowns and heads of conquered kings to my city steps. You insult my queen. You threaten my people with slavery and death. Oh, I've chosen my words carefully, Persian. Perhaps you should have done the same.
This is blasphemy. This is madness.
Madness. This is Sparta!
Did that really happen? Yes, but back in 490 during the First Persian War. In our next clip, Leonidas will go visit the ephors to see if he gets approval to go on his journey.
We have been expecting you.
The ephors, priests to the old gods, inbred swine, more creature than man, creatures whom even Leonidas must bribe and beg. For no Spartan king has gone to war without the ephors' blessing.
The Persians claim their forces number in the millions. I hope for our sake they exaggerate. But there's no question we face the most massive army ever assembled.
Before your plan is heard, what do you offer?
Pretty creepy, right? Leonidas is not going to listen to what they tell him, and he'll go on the journey anyway. Let's see how that goes.
My good king, the oracle has spoken.
The ephors have spoken. There must be no march.
It is the law, my lord. The Spartan army must not go to war.
Nor shall it. I've issued no such orders. I'm here, just taking a stroll, stretching my legs. These, 300 men are my personal bodyguard. Our army will stay in Sparta.
Where will you go?
I hadn't really thought about it, but, now that you ask, I suppose I'll head north.
The hot gates.
As it turns out, Leonidas left with the blessing of the ephors. The entire Spartan army couldn't leave because the religious festival of Carnea was going on, but they could send him out with an expeditionary force, even if they weren't technically declaring war. In this next clip, Leonidas' wife will tell him goodbye, and this is how a Spartan woman says goodbye to her man.
Spartan!
Yes, milady.
Come back with your shield. Or on it.
Romantic, right? In this next scene, Leonidas will encounter representatives of other Greek cities who want to send help for the war. And in truth, there were 4,900 other soldiers fighting in this conflict at Thermopylae, aside from the 300 who stood their ground.
Taxos! What a pleasant surprise.
This morning's full of surprises, Leonidas.
We've been tricked. There'll be more than a few hundred. This is a surprise.
Silence! We heard Sparta was on the warpath. We were eager to join forces.
If it is blood you seek, you're welcome to join us.
But you bring only this handful of soldiers against Xerxes? You see, I was wrong to expect Sparta's commitment to at least match our own.
Doesn't it? You, there. What is your profession?
I'm a potter, sir.
And you, Arcadian, what is your profession?
Sculptor, sir.
You?
Blacksmith.
Spartans! What is your profession? You see, old friend, I brought more soldiers than...
If we know anything about the Spartans, we know that the clip we just saw is actually pretty accurate. People from other cities who were in the army did this as citizen soldiers, but Spartans were all soldiers. That's what they did for a living. In this next clip, Leonidas will instruct the Persians who tell him to lay down his arms, they can come and get them.
Remember this day, man, for it will be yours for all time.
Spartans! Lay down your weapons!
Persians! Come and get them!
Malon labe, come and get them, is what Leonidas is supposed to have said when the Persians asked the Spartans to lay down their weapons. Did he really say this? I don't know. The earliest report of him having said this comes centuries later during Roman times, so it's hard to say. In our next clip, we learn that the allies who have helped Leonidas out in his endeavor at Thermopylae are all leaving. This isn't really true. Over 1,100 Greeks who were not Spartans stayed to the bitter end at Thermopylae.
Hundreds leave. A handful stay. Only one looks back.
Spartans! Ready your breakfast and eat hearty. But tonight, we dine in hell!
How could I not show that clip, right? Another question I get asked by people because I teach classics is, how accurate is all of this when it comes to clothing and armor? And we can see in this picture here that certain things are being showcased by the Spartan warriors who were fighting. Let's talk about those things. We might expect to see a Spartan warrior wearing a Corinthian helmet, and indeed this is a real Spartan Corinthian helmet. This one clearly took some abuse. It provides a lot of protection for the nose, the cheekbones, and the eyes, as well as the back of the neck. You could expect that the Spartans carried hoplon shields like this that are round and quite large. You would expect the Spartans carried Machaira-style swords just like this. And in fact, we have vase paintings of men carrying Machaira swords. These were real. You'd also expect them to be using dory spears with tips that are like these. And perhaps they might even be wearing armor, although you don't see much of that in the movie. But here's the reality. The Spartans have moved away from helmets of the Corinthian type for a major reason, and that's that you can't hear very well if you're fighting in close formation if you have metal covering up your ears. Also, the helmet tends to muffle the sound of speech. So they moved to a pilos helmet, which looks like this. It really just covers the top of the head, and it's pretty good for glancing off blows by things like knives or swords. They did carry the hoplon shield like the one you see in the movie. However, their sword was different from the one you see in the movie. Instead of using the Machaira, which kind of tapers, they used something called a xiphos, which was quite short. The whole thing was probably not much more than about 18 inches in length. And you can see xiphos here, which is more pointy than anything else. And it wasn't used for slashing or hacking so much as poking. You would use it to poke at another man's neck or face as you were fighting in a phalanx formation. They would carry dory spears, like the ones shown in the movie. And they would wear armor, but not of the solid breastplate type you saw earlier, not that corselet type. They wore something called linothorax armor. And we don't have a lot of examples of this around, but we can see in this vase painting that linothorax armor, as shown here, is actually something more akin to mail. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this. Stay tuned for my next lectures on democratic Athens and the art that it produced.